Hello, everyone, and welcome to our call today on finding safety in scary times. And I really felt called to offer this because I know for myself, I have such an arsenal of tools and they have been so supportive. And I wanted to share some because I know not everyone has the same tools and everyone's got different ways of dealing. But I know right now I can just feel the collective stress, the collective fear, all that's going on. And so I wanted to address that and to give us an opportunity to talk about it, give us an opportunity to feel supported. And so welcome. And before we start, I just want to let you know that I am recording this call. So if there's anything you don't want to be shared, then you can always ask me to stop recording if you have a question that you don't want to share, but would like to have other people have the opportunity to see this that might have been unavailable to attend live. Before we dive in, I'm just going to guide us in a little bit of a practice of just dropping in for a moment. So I'll invite you now to just find a position that feels comfortable. So just kind of tuning in if you need to move your body a little bit, if you need to get comfortable in your seat or your chair or your bed or wherever you are listening to this presentation. And just take a few deep breaths. Let's take 3 deep breaths together. Just coming very present to this moment. And as you start to relax your body, just really feeling the weight of your body in your chair, feeling where you're connected to the floor, feeling that pull of gravity holding you to the earth, trusting in gravity in this moment, feeling that stability, that sturdiness of the floor, that stability, that sturdiness of your chair, feeling that holding you, holding you. And just allow yourself to feel into that. What do you notice in your body and your being as you feel into that stability? And just noticing if there's anything else that your body might need in this moment to feel comfortable. If you want to do any stretching, just kind of maybe feeling your feet on the floor, popping your toes up, flexing your heels back, just noticing how that feels, looking at your feet, feeling your feet move. Maybe if it feels good to move your hips in your seat again, to really feel settled and grounded in your chair. See if you can soften your face, soften your jaw anymore. Just noticing if there's anywhere else in your body that needs attention. Just being curious what you notice. Taking another breath here. And when you feel ready, you can start to bring your attention back. Just noticing if you feel any differently in your body in this moment. And this is such a simple practice, but it's a really effective one to feel yourself in your body. Because often when we get overwhelmed, anxious, fearful, it's happening up here. I know for myself, when I start to feel that, I notice the sensation of pressure, of heat in my chest, and I notice like pressure, tension, energy in my head. And so often, even just taking a few moments to breathe down into my body, to feel myself on the ground, can help you in the moment to attach to something stable, to something neutral, to something that feels that you can rely on. And maybe sometimes that's just gravity, and that is beautiful if it's gravity, right? In this moment, we can trust that we're held in our seat, and that can be a place of support. So I wanted to share that practice. And I wanted to tell you a little bit, for those of you who aren't familiar with me, my name is Amanda Testa. I'm a sex and relationship coach, as well as a breathwork teacher and resolution guide. And really, with the work that I do, a lot of it roots in creating a foundation of safety in your body and your system. Because often, if you want to have those more orgasmic states, you have to have a strong foundation. And so much of my work is around calming the nervous system, learning how to navigate the nervous system and what goes on there and why we react the way we do when things get crazy. And I know for a lot of you out there, it's a really challenging time right now. Let's just face the facts. There's some craziness that we've never experienced before going on. So you might be feeling all kinds of different ways about that. And I wanted to kind of share a little bit about our brain and our nervous system and how that works, because oftentimes education can give a sense of understanding. And when we understand something, it can give us more of a feeling of control. And oftentimes, when we can take a look at what's happening inside of our brain and nervous system, it can give ourselves an opportunity to react differently. And so I'm going to share just really quickly a little bit about the brain. I'm going to share a couple of tools that you can find supportive in this moment. And I'll invite you, if you think other people can benefit from this, please share it, because I think the more resourced we are, the more we can move through this together. And the more we come together and support one another, the more we're going to thrive through this experience and beyond. So, again, just noticing how you're feeling. If you need a moment to just take a breath at any time, allow that. Maybe grabbing a pen and a paper and some water. Often, drinking water can just feel really good to your system. And so, I'm going to share with you just a little bit about the brain and the nervous system really briefly so you can kind of get an understanding of where I'm going with all this. One of the easiest ways I find to describe it, and I actually learned this from Dan Siegel, and he is an amazing neuroscientist and does a lot of work around kind of understanding the brain and how you can translate that into parenting. But also, it applies. There's so many different amazing teachers in this field: Peter Levine, Pat Ogden, like there's a whole crew. And a lot of what I learned today, too, is from one of my mentors, Rachel Maddox, who is amazing in the field of trauma resolution. So, the first thing I want to share is just a little bit about the brain. So, if you look at your hand, you can kind of use your hand as a model. So, if you think about the brain stem, it's kind of coming into your spinal cord, and the brain stem comes into the brain here. And then you have here, you've got kind of your primal brain and your limbic system. So these are the parts that are more old, they're more ancient, and they're more like your primal brain is more involved with respiration and all your bodily functions and things that are pre-verbal often. You don't often don't have an awareness of these things happening. And our limbic system is also our emotional brain and kind of our our rooted responses are in here of fight, flight, freeze. Those are kind of based in this part of our brain. And then we have our cortex and our prefrontal cortex, which is more involved with high level thinking, problem solving, creativity. And so if you look at your hand, you can kind of see how that works. And oftentimes I like this analogy because I think it's great to show how when we have a fearful situation or if we get triggered, often we can like blow our lid and we have zero capacity to function in a regulated way. So we maybe lash out, yell, get scared, freeze, want to fight someone. Like all that stuff happens when we have blown our lid. And so, some tips to kind of bring that part of your brain back online. When this part's back online, this is the part of our brain that can make decisions, that can be rational, that can be present. And so it's natural that we'll have these experiences. But the more we can kind of learn how to bring our brain back online, the more we can handle them. So, for example, even just looking at this model, if you feel yourself losing it, you can take 5 deep breaths as you bring your brain back online, actually watching your hand. Because when you look at what your brain is doing, it gives your brain the opportunity to choose something different. So, for example, you're feeling freaked out. So, look at your hand. One, two, three, four, five. And as you look at your hand, really for doing the breathing, it gives you an opportunity to bring this prefrontal cortex back online. So you can repair if you've yelled or lost it. You can start to think, okay, what is it that really needs to happen in this moment? So it's such a great way just to kind of realize how we deal with things and why that happens. The other thing is when we are naming what's going on, it tames it, right? When we name what we're feeling, it calms it down a little bit. I'm feeling really afraid about what's happening right now. I go to the grocery store and there's no food on the shelf. So it triggers this fear reflex in me where I feel like I'm going to die. And that is a literal feeling. Like our bodies react viscerally to things that we can't always control. So it's like taking that moment to look and see what's going on. And I'm going to share some other tools around creating a strong resource because I think those are what help you stay in your window of tolerance. And when I'm talking about your window of tolerance, this is an area where you're regulated, you feel like you can handle things pretty well, you can problem solve. And what happens is when we get triggered, there's two ways we can go, right? So here's our window of tolerance. We get triggered and we're like, and we go up here. And this is the hyper response. And we're like, oh my God, I've got to go buy all the food. I've got to go buy all the toilet paper. Oh my God, I got to go fill my car with gas. Oh my God, I'm going to, buy 8,000 rolls of Purell, right? That is the hyper response. And understanding like if people are having that response, that's okay. That is their fear. And it's okay that that's happening. But when you're aware of it, you can say, okay, well, how do I get back down into this window of tolerance? I'll talk about that in a minute. Alternatively, you can be in this window of tolerance and then you might go into the hypo versus like, oh, I guess we're all going to die. It's doomsday. I might as well just like curl up in my hole. Oh, it's just so upsetting. I can't even move. I don't even know what to do. I'm just paralyzed. And that's the hypo response. But even from here, you can have the moments of, wait, but then I need food from the grocery store. Oh my God, I gotta go to the grocery store and there's no food at the grocery store. And so it takes us up and down in these spikes and drops. So when we're in that place, we can't connect to the things that bring us into our window of tolerance. That's kind of what happens. When you're outside of your window of tolerance, you can't use your tools because you don't have access to them. So the more we can learn how to bring ourselves back to this window of tolerance, the more we're able to move forward in a way that feels safe, the way that feels stable, a way where we can problem solve, a way that we can be forward thinking and not just drowning in that fear or anxiety mode. Does that make sense? And feel free if you have questions to ask. You can always email them to me as well. Okay, so what do you do about this? What do you do? How do you get back into the zone of tolerance, this window of tolerance? So there's a few things you can do. And the first thing I'll share with you is creating a list of things that make you feel supported. Now, this is so key. And I love this from Rachel Maddox. She calls it your full body exhale list. So if you think about things that make your body just like, what are the things that give you that reaction? Like your full body is just relaxed. You feel like your needs are met. You feel taken care of. You feel safe. So sometimes some things that can do that are, drinking a glass of water, taking a walk, feeling yourself supported by gravity, really looking at your feet on the ground, being in your body, feeling the container of your body. Just feeling that container of your body can even be helpful. Pressing your hands down onto your thighs, right? Those are some things that can be helpful. Um, doing a couple yoga poses, maybe putting on a song and having a dance party when you can like shake your body. Even just shaking for a couple of minutes is a great way to kind of move that phrenic energy out of your system. So you can shake, you can dance, you can make sounds. Sound is another way that this likes to leave our system, like just making sounds, moving it out, right? These are some things that can support you in that. Maybe take a shower, maybe hug a family member, right? These are some things, pet a dog. These are some things that can bring you to a place of feeling resourced. And when you're in that moment, just really take a second to let it sit in. So, right now, if I'm feeling myself really supported in my chair, I feel weighted in my hips. I feel my hands want to touch my shirt. It's soft. That feels soothing. Oftentimes, touching your face or your hair can soothe your nervous system. Even just holding yourself. And then just notice what happens in your being. You can tap into that for a moment. So, right now, I want to work with you to create this list for yourself. Okay. Because again, when we're out of our window of tolerance, when we're super stressed, when we're scared, when we're anxiety ridden, we do not remember what our tools are. So, the key is to make a list of this and do these things more often than we think we need to. So, if you're currently doing them like once or twice a day, do them like 8 times a day, 10 times a day. That's why you need to find simple, easy things to do and write them down somewhere you can see them because you need to look at it. Because when you get outside, when you're afraid, when you're scared, when you're anxiety ridden, you need it somewhere you can see it. So maybe make a list and put it on your phone. So I want to walk you through a few realms of this, okay? So the first realm is what supports your body? When you feel overwhelmed, what supports your body, right? So this could be maybe you want to cuddle up with a blanket. Maybe you want a hot cup of tea. Maybe you want to take a few deep breaths. Maybe you want to take a walk. Maybe you want to notice the sun on your skin. So take a few moments and just jot some of those things down. What helps your body feel supported when you feel overwhelmed? And just jot down 3 to 5 things. Don't censure yourself. Don't overthink it. Just jot down a couple things. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Okay, now the second thing is to tune into what supports you emotionally when you feel overwhelmed. Maybe you need to take a minute to go into the bathroom and cry. Maybe you need to scream and punch a pillow. Maybe you need to do a brain dump and just write down all the things that are on your mind. Just write them down. Maybe you want to reach out to a friend for a phone call or a Zoom connection, FaceTime. Just tuning into what some of those things may be for you. And the nice thing about writing them down is we can get to a second part of that in a moment. So just take a few minutes and just write down a few things that come to your mind. What supports you emotionally when you feel overwhelmed? Maybe writing down some things you appreciate. Maybe writing down some things you're grateful for. And there's no right or wrong answers, just tuning in for you. And I'll give you just another moment here. And now I want you to tune into any spiritual or valiant resources. I love this term. These would be things, spiritual support, maybe something from nature, maybe a specific animal. Just tuning in when you think of supports outside of yourself. Maybe it's like a superhero, really just tuning in. What could that be for you? And what do you notice when you tune into that support? So maybe taking a moment to write a little bit about that. And as you feel into that for yourself, I'll invite you to just take a look at the things that you've written down and just notice how it feels to connect to those things. Take some deep breaths, looking at this list of support and tuning in as you look at this list. What would feel best to connect with right now? And just tune into that. Notice what happens in your system as you tune into these supports. I notice for myself when I tune in, I start to feel spacious in my chest. I feel kind of dropping down like an energy of slowness. And I feel kind of more expanded here in my shoulders. And just maybe being curious about what you notice. And as you look at your list, just seeing the ones that you can really access easily, right? Maybe a breath, maybe a sip of water. And also looking at the ones that might require a little more organization around. But how can you add these into your schedule more over these next few weeks? Because the more you're able to create this container of support for yourself, this will support you to stay in your window of tolerance. And it's so subtle. So you might not even realize how these things support you, but it is amazing the effect it will have on your nervous system. I am so amazed by this work so often because these little subtle things that you'll do, and you're like, oh, is this even doing anything? But over time, you're like, my goodness, this is night and day. Like where I used to freak out and lose my total mind over something, I have such a more centered and calm reaction. And I do have my moments, like we're human, we will. So it's remembering those lists and keeping them handy and saying, okay, I'm going to go over my list now, connecting to the things that support you, because I get it right now. There's a lot going on. You might have a full house of kids or a partner working from home. You're all at home in the same house together. So it's bound for your nervous system to get overstimulated or triggered or however you tend to respond. And people have a different way of responding. People usually tend towards one or the other, but knowing that's okay and like really having empathy for yourself. It's okay to feel these ways. It's okay. We've never been through something like this. We don't know what to expect. So it's okay that the fear is there. At the same time, it's okay to tap into support. It's okay to nourish yourself and your nervous system so that you can care for your family, so that you can make the best decisions for yourself and for your community. And from this place, you can also tune into how could I serve? How can I help? Right? That was so for me, like knowing all these tools and like, you know what, now is a perfect opportunity for me to share this because these are simple tools that everyone can benefit from. So I really want people to know these tools are accessible. And there's so many ways we can take this, but for today, I just wanted to keep that resource of safety, right? Creating those lists, moving through the different areas, what supports you physically, what supports you emotionally, what supports you spiritually, and making those lists because it's going to really support you during this time. And also, if you have questions or if you have something specific coming up that you want me to address, I'd love if you could ask a question or email me. Amanda at amandatesta.com is my email. That's AMANDA, Amanda at amandatesta.com. And I'll be happy to answer your questions. And I want to do a few of these calls over the next week because I know collectively I can feel we need this collective sigh. We need to hold each other and know that when we're come together, we can get through this. We are supporting one another. We're here for one another. And again, the simpler, the better. There's no right or wrong way. So tuning in to what showed up for you And when we come back, I'm going to do this again on Monday at 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. And on Monday, I'm going to talk a little bit more about another process to kind of deal with when you have like the anxiety that you feel like you can't calm, some tips to deal with that. But I think some of the things I shared here today will be really great for moving that energy. Like I talked about dancing, sounding, shaking your body. Those are quick little easy things that you can do. And I promise you, when you do them, you're going to notice a difference. So I hope this was supportive today. Again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. I'm happy to support in any way I can. And just sending you all so much love.